One, I think that we shouldn't call it an election at all, because she's practically running against herself. She's locked out opponents, and that's because she is insecure in that position. She knows that Tanzanians were tired of hers, and I think CCM in general, her party, so that it cannot be called an election.
Hello and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations. I'm your host, Peter Ndoro. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in. So, imagine being abducted in broad daylight, held incommunicado for days, beaten, threatened, and experiencing various forms of torture, all for standing up for democracy and human rights. Well, this is the ordeal faced by Ugandan journalist and activist Agather Atuhaire, who, together with her colleague Boniface Muwangi, faced when they travelled to Tanzania earlier this year to show support for opposition political leader Tundu Lissu. Over the past few days, we've brought to you her story of abduction, detention and sexual abuse, exposing not only the personal trauma endured by activists, but also a disturbing pattern of cross-border repression in East Africa, where governments appear willing to silence dissent with impunity. In this episode, we hear the next part of her story, where after her abduction, she's driven in a car to a secondary destination unknown to her. And we also get her thoughts on the Tanzanian elections in terms of their credibility.
So now I'm thinking that they are taking us to throw us in the ocean. And you know, the mind is playing games on you. You're even hearing the ocean sound. Or they are taking you to throw you to the wild animals, because you could reach a point where you could tell that you are in an isolated place. There's not even another car passing, but it was a highway that was clear. Before I knew it, it was night, because at night, even with the blindfold, you can tell you're seeing the lights from oncoming traffic. It is night, and I'm wondering which journey is this that we've taken for about 10 hours. But I am so scared. I am thinking of the way out. These people now are not even talking. Whenever they want to receive a phone call, they stop, even if they know I don't know Swahili, but they would stop the car. And I think the two ringleaders would take a phone call and talk to one another. So we reached somewhere and they stopped. And now at that moment, they asked me if you could tell it is a busy area. Yeah. There were people talking, there were bars, there's music. At that point, they asked me what I want to eat. And they said, should we bring you chicken? Should we bring you plantain? Should we bring you chips? I said, well, plantain and chips, but I had not felt hungry this entire time. There's a way the body, I think, prioritizes concerns, and hunger wasn't one of them. So they bring me food. All of them were going to eat. I think a few moved out to eat from the pub, and they left me with 2 or 3. There was a woman sitting next to me. There was a driver who also stayed, and a guy that was behind. So at that moment is when I realized Boniface is not in that car. I called him, one, to confirm if he's around, but also to ask him if my sweater was in the boot, because I didn't know they had thrown away the clothes we had, because it was getting very cold. And when I asked, they tell me, no, he's not here. I asked where he is, and the woman says he was taken to another place. So now I'm scared again. For you're wondering whether Boniface is okay, whether for him has already been killed and dumped. But also now you're thinking you are actually alone, even if you and him were not helping one another. But you know, there's a bit of consolation that was coming with that. So they bring for me food. I had no energy to eat it, so when it got there, I lied that I don't eat chicken. So I took a bite on the plantain, and there's a guy who was very overly nice who came and said and asked him if I want soda. I said, "Do you need soda for energy?" I said, "Yeah." And if I want apple, so I said I did not want the apple, but he still brought it. And then after, he asked the woman to give me painkillers. So she gave me painkillers. And I asked her, you know how I do not keep quiet? I asked her, so all along you have had painkillers, you saw how the trouble I had walking to the bathroom, and you didn't give them to me. Why are you giving them to me now? And she said, I want to give them to you now. Well, I needed them. The pain was just getting worse. The pain in my butt was getting worse. It was that. So I took them and I asked if I can use the bathroom, and they said, no, you cannot, because I think now this is a busy place. They thought I would come out and maybe shout something. They said we'll stop somewhere along the way, but not here. So this was like a break of about 30 minutes. Those that had moved out came back and they drove off again. And then we reached somewhere and they stopped and said, you can come out and pee. I came out. Then this guy told the woman to pour water on me to wash my hands, the drinking water we had. Okay, so now I start to say, okay, but if they wanted to kill me, would they give me painkillers? This is around 9 p.m. now. I said, maybe they're not going to kill me. But I thought they would rape me. So the raping of the previous night was very painful, but it wasn't the kind that you'd have consequences to deal with after. That would have the stigma, the consequences you're dealing with. The feeling is not the same. They didn't use their sexual organs. You're not going to worry about HIV or something, or being pregnant from those ropes. So a part of me was thankful that I wasn't gang raped in that way by 5 men. But now I was thinking, how am I going to survive in the dead of the night with them, you know? So they drive off again for another about 4 hours. But all this time they would come out and pick a call. I later realized that the calls were, there was someone waiting to receive them, to receive us.
Right.
So we reached a place and they stopped. They go talk to a car that was seated in front. So because it's night now, I can adjust the blindfold a bit to see very little, like see time on the car dashboard. But I also saw that car, the vehicle that waited to pick us up. I see the number plates was STM. Now I'm thinking, okay, so would this be number plates for southern Tanzania? And then I thought they were driving me home by road. If we are in southern Tanzania, I would be farther away from home, because that would be the side of Mozambique. So we follow that car and we are stopped at a building. The next day I saw the Tanzanian flag, so it was also a government building. Yeah, so I'm told to come out of the car and I'm led into, it's like an office area, but like there's like a room behind it. So I'm led through that office area to the bedroom, a big room that has a very small mattress and a dirty pillow there. And they tell me to sleep. But it's 1:35 a.m. from what I've seen, and it is freezing. The only sweater I'd carried with me is the sweater they threw away. So I'm freezing, and now I have been put on that small mattress. I wanted to sleep so badly, but the cold, I was literally freezing. So I'm on that mattress freezing, and one of the guys in the car comes back with a very warm sweater and gives it to me and said, "Put on this, it's cold." And he dresses me up because I'm still blindfolded, even if I'm in a room alone. He dresses me up, which makes me think it's the same guy that dressed me up last night. So the sweater was smelly and all, but that didn't matter. It gave me some warmth I needed to fall asleep. So I fall asleep, and I actually fall asleep. Like that is now the deepest sleep I had. But I was still cold in my feet and whatever. So around, I think, 6 a.m., this woman knocks and comes and tells me to come and go take a shower. I'm taken to a bathroom that is very, very identical to the bathroom in Dar es Salaam. And this is a place where we had driven about 16 hours to get to. So it means it's another detention center of the government. Very identical. The bathroom is the same. The bucket there is green. There's a jug in the bucket, similar to the jug they were using to pour water all over me at the torture place. So she takes me to the bathroom to take a bath, and there's no soap. As she's trying to give me my toothbrush, she throws it down in that very filthy place. They were all filthy, dirty in a way I can't explain. And I tell her I cannot use it. She said she's going to wash it. I said I would rather stay with a smelly mouth for forever, but not to use that toothbrush. So there's even no soap. So you cannot, there's no way, there's no actual bath you can take.
Just describe for us how this journey finally came to an end.
Okay, so I spent 2 nights in that place. And in those 2 nights, I'm being given painkillers. And one of the guys that had become friendly telling me that the whole world is looking for me, that he didn't know I was that popular and whatever, tells me about protests even happening. And he tells me they are going to take me back home, but what they were waiting for is my passport. So we had left Dar es Salaam on Tuesday morning. So on the evening of Thursday, the sun was setting. So I imagine it was 5 coming to 6. They start to drive again from that place that I had been for 2 days, where we had driven about 16 hours to get to from Dar es Salaam. So they drive and drive and drive. This time they didn't stop anywhere. And you could tell they have passed a roadblock or maybe traffic. They would speak to some afande. And around 2 a.m., they reach somewhere and stop and ask me to get out of the car. They take off the blindfold now. Now, this is for the first time in the past 4 days that the blindfold is taken off. And then they order me to get out of the car. I'm struggling because I'm struggling to wear shoes. The feet are still swollen and still painful. But I get out a bit and they say, "You are home." They hand me my bag. The driver opens this place on the left-hand side of the driver and gets my passport and hands me my passport. But the woman tells me, repeats something she had said before we left the place I'd been held at, and says, if you say anything that happened here, you will be dead, your children will be dead. What happens in Tanzania stays in Tanzania.
Wow.
And of course, I give birth, and she asks, have you had? Have you had? And I say, if you're sending me home, just send me home. Enough with the threats. So the guy that had been nice all along says, Agatha, you know, don't interfere in these people. Go home, be with your children, don't say anything, and you will be safe. So they get me out of the car, and the woman tells me, you go home. You are home. And they are telling me I'm home, but I don't know where I am. It's the middle of nowhere. It's bushy. I do not know anything about a place like that. So I said, but where am I? And they said, the Mutukula border is up there. So Uganda is close.
Wow. So which
So I said, okay,
where had they dropped you?
at the border, the Tanzanian border with Uganda, called Mutukula.
Okay.
That's about 4 hours from Kampala. So I asked
Wow.
them, but how am I supposed to go home with no money and no phone? And they said, figure it out. That's not a problem. So they had me my bag, and they reversed their car as I'm struggling to walk because I can't walk. And they had left me about 500 meters from the border. As I'm struggling to walk, the lady comes back, calls me, says, first wait. So I thought they have come to give me maybe money, because they had taken money that was in my bag, and they had not returned my phone. So she had come to ask me for that jumper, that sweater that
Right.
one of them gave to me earlier. Like I give it to them, and for a moment I'm scared, wondering how I will get home, wondering what if something happens to me here. But immediately after, I am thinking there's no danger that can be worse than the danger I've been in. There's nothing that can be worse than being in a space of murderers and those criminals and blindfolded and without any sort of freedom to go anywhere. So I felt I am better off in the middle of nowhere in the dead of the night. So I walked maybe a few meters, and there's a cyclist passing by, the ones we call border here. So I just waved him down. But now in my mind, I'm not sure whether I'm waving down another criminal, but I just took that chance. He first rides ahead and then turns and comes back and asks me, where are you coming from? Where did you just come from? From his accent, you could tell he's also Tanzanian. So I tell him, I was kidnapped. I've just been dumped here. I need help getting to the border. I said, yes, I'll help you. And he takes me to the border and takes me to the Tanzanian side of immigration and waits for me and helps me to get to the Ugandan side, and he leaves. And for a moment, I feel like my faith in humanity, he's a good guy. He hasn't even asked me for money and whatever. So I go to the Ugandan side. He's the one who had told me that time was 2:52 a.m. I go to the Ugandan side, and there's no one in customs. So I come back to the security guard we had seen, and I ask him if he can give me his phone to make a phone call. And he tells me they are not allowed phones at work, but he tells me there is a police station just outside the customs office. So I go to that police station, and I find two police officers. They were both sleeping, but one woke up as soon as I entered, and I asked him for his phone. He was first skeptical, but he gives it to me instantly, and I call my sister. It's the one number I knew in my head.
Right.
So when I call her, she tells me we are in Lukaya. So she says, wait for us. Of course, she's screaming, she's crying, she's excited. She says, if you need to go to the hospital, tell them to take you to the hospital. We will be there because we are in Lukaya. Now she's telling me they're like halfway the journey. And I'm wondering, why are they already on the way as if they knew I would be here? But then that was something I waited for her to tell me about. So I told her, I'm okay, I'm going to wait for you here. That was the longest wait ever. So they came. She was with my cousin and my friend and colleague at Agora, where I work. And that's when they tell me the story that Boniface was dumped at the border the previous day. So the suspicion here was that even now would be dumped at the border. And that's why they had started, the journey there before I knew. But she had also been, calling even some people she knows in security and whatever. And that's what everyone had expected. That's how I came back home. And to go back to the story of the guy, the motorcycle guy that helped me, I am talking to I have an uncle who was a minister in this government for a long time, but also the Secretary General of the East African Community. So he had been making calls in Tanzania. So when he comes to see me the following day, and I'm narrating the story like I have here, he's the one that said that motorcycle rider was their person tasked to make sure I get home. Because by now the government didn't want me to disappear. They would be the ones accountable or anything to happen. Yeah. It made a lot of sense. That. So yeah, I come back. I go to the hospital that afternoon, and my biggest worry that time was my rare, the pain, the infections that could come with that, or if there was any internal damage. And the doctor looks at it and says, the level of inflammation makes me wonder how you've been able to sit or to use the toilet or do anything in the last 4 days. If it is this inflamed and stretched 4 days later, I think now 5. I don't want to imagine what you've been going through. I think unknown to me was that the more permanent damage was on my feet. But me, I had taken the feet to mean that it's like how we would be canned in primary school, and you have bruises and swellings that goes away. But 5 months later, my feet still swell. If I walk, if I sit, and I'm not seated where I can stretch them or elevate them, they swell, they're still painful, and it is 5 months. Wow. So yeah, they practically left us disabled. That's the end of that story.
Yeah, throughout this nightmare, were there moments that you called on God to save you, or some higher power to try and get you through this?
No, it's very strange. I thought that even for people like us who are a bit agnostic, that there will be a moment that you are crying out to God in moments like that. But I think my agnosticness came from knowing that there's a way, I think, that it's fate, that is written, things happen the way they are supposed to happen. So what I just did was that acceptance of whatever will happen is what maybe will happen. And a bit of regret about wishing I had said farewell to my children, wishing I'd said farewell to my mother, wishing that at least my family gets to know that they killed me and they don't spend years in anguish, expending resources looking for me, That's all. Yeah. That's all then I thought about I thought about the struggle, if it is worth it, and there's no point at which I thought I had regret for doing what I do. There's no point at which I said that now after this, I'll never go back to do what I did. In fact, at some point, I asked myself, but why would people think that the effect of torture would be to stop you from doing this? Because it made me more resolved. It made me more angry that I cannot let them win. It sort of emboldened me. It made me conquer the worst fear I had, which was torture. I always told people I don't fear this government killing me or anything. I just fear the day they'll get me and torture me. So I always joked that I want to start moving around with some poison so that the day they get me, I swallow it and die.
So there's no doubt it was a life-changing moment that you lived through. Is the Agatha before Tanzania the same as the Agatha now?
There's a slight difference. There's a slight difference. The Agatha now is so I am someone who used to be on my feet all the time, and everything I used to do to like the outlets I had were through using my feet, the outlets from this stress and frustration. It would be jogging, it would be going to the gym, it would be going to dance, it would be playing football with my children, and they laugh at my poor football skills. But now I can't do that. So I am less mobile. So the Agatha now is not a social person. I don't like actually socializing anymore. I don't like going anywhere anymore. I like to stay in my bed. If I'm not, I do most of my work in my bed. And my friends were worried that I'm going through a depression. I like to drink alcohol, which wasn't the case before. So maybe that has become the outlet, which worries me sometimes that I might be an alcoholic. I think I'm susceptible, seeing as I had it in my family. But I am conscious, so I catch myself and say, I need to get something else. I've now been taking swimming lessons to have another hobby of sorts, or another exercise that I can do to relieve my mind of the stress. But Agatha now also doesn't rush to save people. I've felt that about me now, that there's that thinking that I could have died and life would have continued. So I stopped feeling like these people need me. I have to stop everything. I have to, not sleep. I have to abandon my children. And Agatha now also spends more time with my children. I think that if I am to be killed tomorrow, I need to have spent enough time with them so that it counts. But yeah, life will never be the same. I will not lie to you. Every day I wake up and the first attempt to step down is as painful as it is. I feel so angry. And I feel so more angry that there have not been any consequences for people that did this, that they are actually doing more to other people. The consolation I had then was that maybe we were going through that pain, because I kept trying to find the rational way to explain or to deserve what we went through. So I kept saying that, maybe I and Boniface are going through this pain so that we stop the pain of other Tanzanians that are not known, that have no platform, that have no voice. So I thought our pain would not be in vain. I thought our pain would stop Samia Suluhu and those rocks. It hasn't. They are still making people disappear. I think this morning the latest case was John Heche, the vice president of Chadema. There was a rumor that the former ambassador Humphrey Polepole was killed in that process. No one knows whether that's true or not. So yeah, I feel very frustrated. So at some point, I have those moments when I say, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe we won't change anything. Then I have moments when I say, it doesn't matter whether we change anything or not. We will,
Yeah.
just conclude it. Yeah. So that's what has happened. So I lived through shifting moments.
Have the Ugandan authorities been able to help you in any way? Is there any formal
No,
complaint that's been lodged to the Tanzanian authorities?
not at all. No one has even ever asked me anything about that incident. Not any Ugandan authority.
Wow,
Yeah.
that must be heartbreaking for you.
No, it would have been heartbreaking if it wasn't expected. I was very sure that when I was missing in Tanzania, they were feeling like finally someone has taken care of the trouble that we have here. So I expected that. I expected that they would be happy that I even killed there or disappear forever. The authorities, I mean. So I wasn't surprised it wasn't heartbroken. Um, that's what makes me think we need to fight against a government that doesn't care about its citizens.
What next?
Well, what next is to continue doing my work. Um, the problem is that even if I feel that the work is not stopping these criminals, I, I sat I sat with myself a long time ago and thought, that's not my problem to worry about. I need to do what is within my means. And what is within my means is that you have put out this information about the criminality, about the violations of people's rights, about the corruption, until such a day as that information has reached every Ugandan. And there's a collective effort to put an end to this.
Okay. All right, Agatha. As we start to close, this interview is going to be published a day after Tanzania's election. And when Samia Suluhu Hassan was first elected, people had so much hope that a woman president might be different. What are your thoughts for Tanzania and these elections that some people are already doubting about what story they tell, and sadly that a woman is head of state when things like this are happening to people like you?
One, I think that we shouldn't call it an election at all, because she's practically running against herself. Is the locked out opponents, and that's because she is insecure in that position. She knows that Tanzanians were tired of hers, and I think CCM in general, her party. So that it cannot be called an election. I wish she had become like, I wish many of these dictators were as honest as Idi Amin Dada in Uganda, who took over power and did not pretend about any democratic processes, and declared himself life president. Because that saves people a lot of effort and resources and energy. So that won't be an election. What is most painful is that more than it being a sham election, it is costing lives. She's killing people every day, anyone she thinks, or disappearing them. We don't know if they're alive, because for now, the number we know is over 200 people. And there are those that the people compiling that list might not have known about. So I think that the world should come in and see the plight of Tanzanians and put an end to this impunity, that because where people see that their actions have no consequences, they will do worse the next day. About this being a woman, I have always thought that people are not bad people because of their gender or ethnicity. Uh, People are bad people. That can be either a woman or a man. That's the starting point for me. The second point is that women in African societies probably suffer from that PTSD that makes them transfer trauma. That, maybe we have been in societies where women are abused, and when they get power, they become the worst abusers because, they want to also abuse. Because when you look at the women leaders we have in Uganda, they are worse than the men. They go there, and maybe I say they are worse because of that expectation that we have and think that women are less corrupt, that women are less authoritarian, that maybe they are humane. So when they get there, you judge them at a higher level. But we have about 4 women in the leadership of this country, top leadership. The second, our vice president is a woman. Our prime minister is a woman. Our speaker of parliament is a woman. Are they using these positions better? No, they are using them worse. The speaker of parliament here is a worse dictator than President Museveni. Has abused her office and, in the worst possible ways, has arrested all her opponents and locked them out of the race. So she's unopposed as a member of parliament. So if that person was to be president like Samia, she would probably be like Samia or worse. So I think that it was a misplaced hope, that what we need to do as the world is to make sure that there are systems that put limitations to people, to the amount of abuse, to the actions of people. If they are not there, you will fall in hands of a natural and inherently inhumane person, and they will have no limit. No one is stopping Tanzania. That's why they will kidnap us and torture us today, and tomorrow kidnap another. And the world is silent, and the international community doesn't care anymore.
Agatha, we're going to leave it there, but I just want to say thank you very, very much indeed for bravely telling your story. I know that it's been difficult to relive that harrowing and dangerous and scary journey, but thank you for sharing the story, and we hope that it might have some impact in changing things. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
And that was Agather Atuhaire, who's a lawyer, journalist, and a human rights activist, talking to us about her work and the tragedy that happened to her in Tanzania. She'd gone to cover a story of an opposition leader in the country. She was abducted by the authorities, sexually molested, tortured, and then dropped off at the border. But this happened over days, which, as you heard from the story, very hard to describe how anybody could survive that. But she shared that story with us, and we thank her. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of Channel Africa Conversations. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And if you have any thoughts on the story that you've just heard, please write them in the comment section below. And also, if you'd like to see other stories like this or different stories, tell us what you'd like to see on Channel Africa Conversations. You'll be seeing the email address and our contact details, as well as our social media platforms on the screen now. And please send through your thoughts. We look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, from me and the team, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.